Well, I think for us, follow Everton, and welcome to those listening. The honeymoon isn't over, but we need to get out of our own heads that we're going to be smashing teams like Wolves 3-1. Because today it was quite uninspiring. It was 1-1. In some ways, we were lucky to get a point, but then again, they were lucky to get a point as well. That's my thought. But how are you feeling, Corey?
I'm disappointed myself. In the preview, I said I reckon it'd be 3-0. It was certainly a chance for us to do something there. We certainly had the chances, but ultimately, end of the game, based on the chances that both teams had, I think a draw is a fair result. And that's what's disappointing, is that the draw was the fair result as well, when really that should have been a game where the form we've been in, and we should have been going for it.
Yeah, and I think when you're saying deserved or had the chances, both teams didn't manufacture that many good chances, but we were both teams were capable of creating better chances because both teams were flat enough that if they were good enough to be mid-table, they would have generated those chances to knock the other one out the park today. I think defensively for us, I don't know if you felt this, Jake O'Brien really struggled in that first half in particular with that overload. I'm not sure if that's solely on Lindstrom on taking on the two players, but it was Ait-Nouri, and I'm forgetting the guy who tucked in on the left side that was involved in the build-up. Yeah, so those two together gave Jake O'Brien fits today, I felt. Branthwaite seemed a little off it as well, but not terrible in any means, but not at his best either. Mikolenko felt just structurally kind of blocked out of it, and Taki did what Taki does. So okay, let's go this way. Beto and Decore, was it their fault, or was it simply we lacked creativity going forward, and it was one-dimensional, and they were destined to be set up for failure?
I just don't think it worked. I think it was a bit of them too. We do lack a lot of the creativity. Obviously, without Njai there, we lack a lot of that extra bit of creativity as well, which when Decore's in that team with Beto, maybe Njai being there kind of gives that extra bit of space and that bit of impetus. But without Njai there creating that, then you really need someone who's going to be feeding balls through to Beto, because you're not going to be working on as many counter-attacks, which was evident when Alcaraz came on for Decore, because you got on the ball and he drove forward. He created that chance for Beto, and there's a couple of other times where we got the ball and his first thought is to go forward, whereas Decore's got to do about a 6-point turn, hasn't he, just to lay the ball off to someone. So it is a part of that. It is a little bit that we lack that creativity and someone getting forward in the way that Njai does as well, which creates the space for Beto and Decore. And I just think it was a case of the Wolves winning the midfield battle at times. Now, we know that they like to pack that midfield out. That's why they play 5 at the back. Wing backs push up, the 2 men in midfield, and even the wide players as well. They pack that midfield, and that's what they did. Idrissa Gana Gueye felt like he was putting out, as soon as he put out one fire, he was having to put out another one today. So the midfield really struggled as well. You could probably say that was down to potentially Decore as well. Not solely him, just his positioning that he was having taken up as well. He was drifting out wide, and it allowed Wolves to kind of win that midfield battle as well. And that's where that issue came on that right-hand side, is where Wolves would spread the play around. They were playing quite wide, but they'd push a lot of players into midfield as well. Just essentially win that midfield battle. And that's where that goal comes from, is then winning getting the ball out wide, winning the midfield battle in that area, bypassed our midfield. And by that point, it is a good through ball, and that's where they score.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a rugby play, but it felt a little bit like that. They just maneuvered the players, had one player extra, and Duggan's point here that the goal that was conceded was Branthwaite's fault, and completely lost focus. To say it's truly his fault, it's a little strong, but I will say his footwork seemed off. He was caught off guard, but at the same time, credit where credit's due on that through ball, because it was well weighted. And if it wasn't perfectly well weighted, that wasn't in. But we weren't able to handle that left wing at that moment, and that's a lot of what we felt here. They pulled us out wide. Lindstrom wasn't able to keep tabs on Ait-Nouri. Then they cut it into, I keep forgetting his name, the guy that had the dreads, and then he did that really good through ball, and it was like a one-touch finish. And Branthwaite, it was behind Branthwaite, and he couldn't get his foot out. He basically just got his legs tied, it seemed. So yes, partly Branthwaite, but
It is, but it's, as well, you could say it's good movement from the Wolves striker. I mean, Stranlars, so O'Brien gets taken. O'Brien, I have to keep remembering to do that. O'Brien gets dragged far out wide. Lindstrom needs a bit more help. He doesn't do enough with him. So O'Brien gets dragged far out wide, which means Tarkovsky shifts out wide. So what happens then is Branthwaite essentially has got two plays to do. He's got the man running late behind him, which should have really been Mikalenko's man. He loses him, and that's the one who runs behind Branthwaite and scores. And he's got the man in front of him, and he's the man he really needs to be following, is Strand Larsen. Now, Strand Larsen makes that dart towards the near post across goal. So what Branthwaite does is he needs to make sure he's within touching distance of him or lunging distance of him. And what that does then at that point, the pinpoint pass is just behind him, and he does get his feet mixed up. It does look quite bad because he looks at sixes and sevens, he looks at odds. But I think it's good movement from him. It's a bit of Mikalenko. It's an all round team thing. He will look like a scapegoat for that goal, but he was just one of a number of cogs which were just shifted and probably could have done a little bit better. And it's essentially it. It's not just all him.
And honestly, to me, that play from Wolves was probably their only. I mean, they had a couple chances in the back post. So there was a really good foot save in the first half by Pickford. Pablo Sarabia looked quite good as an inverted right winger on at halftime. Why he didn't start, I don't know, but he was certainly impacting the game. But outside of that one play, didn't really that led to the goal. Of course, they weren't that good, and we'll talk about us. And yes, we've talked about Better not getting good delivery. A lot of it has to be we didn't carry enough in the midfield, partly because they boxed, as you're saying, they boxed the midfield, but Garner Gay was putting out fires and basically putting out fires with all of the Molineux crowd wanting him to get a yellow, and he just kind of towed that line perfectly. And we had Garner Gay not into the game as much as we needed to. But occasionally he was making good crosses. A lot of them were also overhit, but it was just enough quality that it wasn't a terrible performance. But he wasn't being that box to box, breaking through and being able to release the ball high enough up the pitch that you could have a well-weighted pass to the likes of Beto to have that goal scoring chance that we did see later on. And James Garner was actually involved. That was in the second half. Carlos Alcaraz was involved as well. Really happy to see how he played, which we'll talk to. But that chance that came through was a quick counterattack off, I think it was a corner from Wolves. James Garner takes on a couple players. Charlie Alcaraz jukes left and right. And then it becomes a 2v2 with Beto. And then knocks it to his left. And Beto opens up his body a little too early, showed his hand, and a good foot save. Do you feel like that was a scenario that Beto should have done better with? Or was it Beto is limited, but you know what he's going to do, at least he got it on target? How do you feel on that chance?
He certainly should have scored. That's an opportunity missed. Then one-on-one, especially in his form, he should have scored that. What I think is like you said, he's shown his hand too early. He's telegraphed the shot. At that point, Jose Sar's already in position with his footwork to get down and make that save. He's probably got, if you look back to the Brentford game and the chances that he missed against Brentford, if he'd have opened his body like that against Brentford, he'd have probably scored. So he's probably got that in his mind. Whereas if he'd have probably got his head down and just drove it with his left foot, it'd have probably gone in the corner. But he's thinking this time, maybe I just need to open my body up and go. So it's one of them where it's a Goldilocks moment. He's gone too close. This time he's opened his body up too much. Hopefully he gets back to scoring, because it is two poor games on the bounce for him. He's missed about 3 or 4 big chances in the past 2 games as well. I do believe, though, if Alcaraz was probably on earlier, he'd have probably had more chances like that, because that was pretty much his only chance in the game. If he probably gets another one of them slip through to him, which Alcaraz probably has the best chance of doing so, I think he probably goes on and scores today, and maybe then we push on and we get another goal kind of thing.
Yeah, and we in the pre-match, the commentator curse of saying, this person hasn't scored yet, this person hasn't got an assist. You know what? They delivered under pressure. Credit where credit is due. Let's talk about our goal. Do you want to cover that one, Corey? Yeah.
So most of our good play, especially in the first half, it come from pressing up high. I said that when they get to midfield, they win the midfield battle. But we press up high. It's a poor ball out. James Garner wins it. It goes to Lindstrom. His output hasn't been good enough this season. But we've seen some more creative balls from him recently. That ball through to Beto, which led to the Corey goal. But that crossfield pass was fantastic. Does lose his footing, but enough zip, enough accuracy on it. Harrison in meters of space. Wolves players should have been right on him on the edge of the box on the left hand side. And didn't look like the best of strikes, but we get luck. It creeps in the middle, and there we go. We should have really pushed on from there.
Yeah, and that strike, what was interesting too, I think it went through the legs and off the calf of Doherty, so it actually deflected in. There's enough pace on it, and it was roughly on target to go in. So if you don't shoot, you don't score. And he was 2-1.
Yeah, I think it was double deflection because I think it hit both of the defenders. It hit one and then hit Doherty and then went in. I think that's what wrong-footed Jose saw, and that's how it managed to creep in. But like you said, if you don't shoot, you don't score, and we created that chance. I'm happy for Jack Harrison because he's got a goal. I hope that he can kick on from there and get a bit more. I hope Lindstrom with that assist, he gets a bit more of an unfoot now, a bit more confidence as well. Because there's a couple of times where again he looked good on the ball, Lindstrom, just that end product. And Harrison, the issue was in the second half, I thought he just died out the game as well. He seemingly disappeared as well.
Yeah. So I'll come right back to the wingers, but I'll see if I can structure this right. So we got the goal, we were ahead, it felt relatively comfortable. And they equalized with about 41st, 42nd minute, right before halftime. So, and it felt really flat from Everton the second we were for the last 20 minutes of that half, and we were hoping for something different. But it looked uninspiring, just defense, a very flat match, honestly. You're hoping for a change at halftime. We didn't really see one. And then the result was a big tactical switch up. Part of that was subbing off Jesper Lindstrom, and part of that was moving on from Abdoulaye Doucouré to try something different. So then, as a result, we brought on Tim Iroegbunam and Charlie Alcaraz in the middle. And instead of having a true left winger, because Harrison was blocking every run that Mykolenko did, he was in the same spot, never passed to him. So it was a very kind of difficult left wing. All of a sudden, Charlie Alcaraz plays the same way Njai did, tucks in, gives him that whole wing to go off, and Harrison goes back to the right wing. And we looked a lot better, but as a result, Lindstrom got subbed.
We did, yeah. I think if it's a fitness thing, I can see taking him off, but I personally would have liked him to keep Lindstrom on and maybe do like a 5 at the back. I know you mentioned to me during the game of bringing like Patterson on. Maybe just going like 5 at the back, you're 2 in midfield, and then like Alcaraz and Lindstrom just behind the striker, because Lindstrom was getting into some good positions, and even though Alcaraz come on, at times he was counter-attacking from the left, his best play coming, he goes central because he wants the ball, and that's when he bursts through. We've seen that also against Brentford, where he gets the ball, he bursts through, he's good at the counter-attack, he can beat a man, and he slipped Beto through, who unfortunately couldn't beat the keeper. So I like him playing a little bit more centrally, and I would like maybe Lindstrom to kind of take up a similar kind of role to him as well. Gone 5 at the back, just go man for man with Wolves, because they play 5 at the back. It'll pack that midfield. If you have, essentially you'll have your 3 at the back. O'Brien will be outside of a 3. Patterson and Mykolenko will be your wing backs. And then essentially, obviously, you've got your 2 men in midfield, and the likes of Lindstrom and Alcaraz will still overload that midfield, but they'll also be able to attack as well and pick up the holes. Because they also seen round about the 70 minute mark and further, we just weren't. There was a lot of times where we had the ball, we were passing it around, but we were just going side to side and backwards, just the old Everton. No one was dropping into the space and picking up holes, which is where the likes of Illiman and Jai would be at his best, just picking that ball up and kind of little 1-2s and creating that extra space then.
I'd say Charlie kind of did, I felt.
Yeah,
so
I just feel like
he did the Njai job to me today in that second half.
He reminds me a little bit of Njai, a little bit of Richarlison. He's got that kind of bite in as he wants to get forward like Richarlison does, but he's probably got a little bit more of the tricky winginess that Njai does as well. I just would have liked us to maybe go for it a little bit more. Like I said, Lindstrom, I would have liked them to stay on, ideally, if it wasn't a fitness issue, just to kind of get people closer to Beto and slip through ball to him, because that was on if we'd have actually gone for it.
Yeah. What's been interesting ever since Moyes has come back, it hasn't been, let's say, a symmetrical formation, but it does mean that we can shift the structure and find gaps a little more often, because you were saying we didn't play with a back five, but in many ways we actually did in that second half. I felt Harrison was a very defensive right winger to the point that he was basically a right wing back, and Mykolenko, because he didn't have Alcaraz in front of him, had a full opportunity when the time arose to dive up and be more advanced. So then all of a sudden you kind of have the wing back setup that Moyes has done, but when it suits. But then what I found was the right side didn't really seem to have much going on once Harrison was playing that deep. You say, okay, we had Eric Boonham, James Garner, Adrissa Garner-Gay in there, but it just seemed to be a dead zone. Everything came through that left side through Charlie, who was a little bit more inside, and Mykolenko was just saying, "Don't give up a goal. It's late in the match." That's how it felt to me.
No, I agree. We were playing. The formation was set up as a 4-4-1-1 or a 4-4-3. But we were just sitting back. Like you said, Harrison's not the kind of player who wants to play on the shoulder. So we ended up with essentially almost a flat back five. But if we'd have gone for, like I said, if you'd have gone to 3-5 at the back, where you've got the back three and then your wing backs, Patterson would have had a lot more width and a lot more pace. So I think it's a little bit. I would like him just to go for it a little bit more, maybe just changing it up, be a little bit more flexible. Look, I'm not going to say there's like panic stations or anything like that. It's still 8 games unbeaten. Mm-hmm. We're still playing really well. We'll take the draw and we'll move on in the context of things. But I wanted more. But again, this is the one thing. When Moyes come in, I think we all knew that we were pretty much going to be safe because he's a much better manager than the previous one. But he's still a fairly pragmatic manager. He's still got his own ways, and especially while he's not got the confidence of probably his own team that he's built himself, he probably is going to be a bit more like this. And this was one of the complaints about Moyes in his first tenure, is that sometimes he wouldn't be as flexible and he wouldn't go for it. So, look, it's not a major issue because of where we are. We still need to improve, and we've not got the greatest of squads altogether. We're still a very small squad. We're limited. We've got a lot of injuries. So he's still dealing with what he can deal with. And he's actually still picking up results and keeping momentum going. But we just need to take all that into account.
So were you a little bit disappointed to not see Chimiti come on? Because I don't think Beto seemed to be scoring today. And you're just talking about the lack of depth of the squad and saying we do the best we can with the team. But I think Chimiti would have been perfectly set up when Wolves were pressing or had us boxed in a little bit and we just took counterattacks. I think Chimiti would have done quite well with Alcaraz in a similar setup.
I think he was going for counterattacks when you can and have a physical battle. I don't know if Chimiti's got that in him at the moment, especially after the long injury layoff. And I don't know if he's got the pace that Beto has on the counterattack. I reckon he's probably got a lot more composure than Beto does. So I think that's what he's going for. I would have liked it because it's just a throw of the dice. I think, especially at this point where I think we are safe and we don't need to grind them points. I think it's one of them where I'd rather go for 3 than just settle for the 1. So in one aspect, yes, but I wouldn't say from where I was that there was something tactical where I was screaming out for Chimiti to come on.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm just trying to. I think partly we're just frustrated thinking Wolves were there for the taking today, and I'm going to try and integrate some of the comments that we're seeing of a similar vein here, that we should be capable of beating Wolves, but Wolves are also an established Premier League side. They're not firing on all cylinders, but they have quality throughout their squad. They just can't put it together consistently. And part of why we all thought, and I think, what was it? Tazul, for example, saying, I did say this would be a tough game for us, but people predicting 3 and 4-0 victories. Face one, we haven't suddenly turned into Real Madrid. No, we haven't, but I believe it was in the first 15 minutes of matches, Wolves have conceded the most goals in the Premier League, or something to that effect. They haven't kept a clean sheet in what seems like forever. They used to be very tough at the back, and they score through only a limited group, largely Mateus Cunha. Strand Larson will get on the end of things. We shut him down today. Nori can get involved, and he was at times, but even still, he was kind of flat. So you go, okay, with that being said, a team that gives up a lot of goals, we're generally scoring now, and that's why we're positive. But if we then go on the flip side of that, we had one bad game and the Boo Boys are back. And you think, yes, we expect better quality. We can boo for a day, but the reality is this team is playing better and is doing better than it did under Dyche at the end. I'm a lot more content, but you could say we could have gotten more from a result like this. That's not the end of the world. I'm quite satisfied that at least we're not losing to Wolves, but you can't be satisfied with an uninspiring draw. But is that really being a boob, or is that the reality of not doing that well because we're not that good?
Yeah, I don't know what Tazul means by boo boys. If there were actually people booing, then yeah, look, that's wrong. But I've not heard anyone say that. I think a lot of people have said it was.
I think he's talking this is Colin in the comments referencing a lot of the other comments in the chat or feeling negative about our performance.
Right. Okay. Right, sorry, I apologise, Tazul. I thought it was yourself. I've just read the one above it. Yeah, I don't think there's any boo boys there. I don't think anyone was kicking off in them regards. I don't think anyone's had anything like that negative to say. I think everyone has quite rightly said it was a disappointing game. I think people have quite rightly said that it was poor defending. We didn't look like scoring at times. Like there was points where we just really, really struggled to get into the game. So the way it looked, it wasn't the greatest game. It wasn't the greatest game to watch. It was disappointing. But even the best teams are going to have disappointing games. I'm not saying we're the best teams either, but that is it. You like to call a spade a spade. It was a rubbish game. It wasn't a great performance, but it's not the end of the world. I don't think anyone's calling for heads or anything like that. I'm sorry, mate. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, am I back?
You're back now, lad. You're on mute for a second for some reason.
The internet here, StreamYard's doing something funny where I'm just talking and then it says, warning, you're on mute now. Why? And it's doing that. The last one was thank you for that. Yeah, just something about, look, we're doing okay, but we could be doing better. And we've been so tired of being an uninspiring team that we get excited about what we could do. We're just not there, not consistently. And we had a few, the 1-1 to Brentford was similar.
Yeah, I think what the disappointing is for people as well is Manchester United. We were 2 goals up. We should have won that. We got a little bit sloppy. They got a bit lucky. The game against Brentford again, we had enough chances to win that game. Beto puts away the chance that he should have. We win that one. And then this one today, look, again, they're there for the taking. The conditions considering Matheus Cunha was out. The team were very inconsistent, but they can certainly be good at attacking wide. Their defence are attacking wise, and with their main attacking threat out, they're a team that's there for the taking. So it's disappointing in that we've not taken advantage of some favourable scenarios so far. But again, TJ Mid, if we hadn't died, we'd have won a couple of these draws. Yeah, quite possibly. In fact, probably. We've got McNeil, who's been out long term as well. Like I said, it's a threadbare squad at the moment. We're missing our number one, our best player, or at least our best attacker. And there's a couple of other players who would help change games. Wolves were able to bring on, like you said, Paulo Sarabia. They were able to bring on Hwang Hee-chan, who are tricky customers. They've got pace. We brought on Alcaraz, Eric Boonham as well, but he's not a game changer, if you know what I mean. I think he's a very good footballer. He's going to be a really good footballer in the future, but he's not a game changer. Paulo Sarabia can be that guy. Hwang Hee-chan has got the pace to take advantage of tired legs.
Yeah, he's had a poor season, hasn't he?
What's that?
Hwang Hee-chan was excellent. Hwang Hee-chan was excellent last season, just seems to have fallen off a proverbial cliff.
Yeah, he played. He got 12 goals last season. He's not scored many this year, something like that. But I think last season as well, they were playing him out left and a little bit wider and allowing him to drift in. It doesn't look like he's been doing it that much this season when he has played.
He got injured and then he just doesn't seem to have gotten back into his goal scoring form ever since. But I think the other part is having the likes of a target man and Strand Larsen, because Hwang Hee-chan was playing more as either a wide forward or the number 9 at times. And now Strand Larsen, you said he was involved in doing an off the ball run, but that he was not. He was covered today by Tarkowski, and it led to one of these kickouts around where he got a yellow card, and Tarky was right in front of the referee. It wasn't a red card by any means, but it was also still just one of these blatant fouls. But maybe will lead into some of the refereeing and the antics of the Wolves players, because to me it felt there's a little bit of contact. They're just rolling around on the ground demanding a free kick, and you look back and there wasn't much contact, trying to con penalties that weren't really there. And even the sliding tackle from Tim-Erik Boonham, yeah, he pulled back, but Doherty kind of fell on the floor like he had just been shot, and you're like, yeah, I know what football's got this in it, but it was very frustrating watching these little antics instead of just kind of being honest about the game. It was quite difficult to watch at times, watching that side of Wolves today.
Yeah, but it's a team that's fighting to stay in the division, isn't it? They're fighting for absolutely everything, so I don't blame them. It was a stupid kick out, and to be honest, I thought Taki was gonna swing for him or do something to get himself sent off instead. So I'm happy that he kept his head on. Can you do me a favor? Can you just highlight the comment from TJ Mid in terms of Ashley Young?
Mm-hmm. So maybe if my internet's not. So TJ, all of a sudden my StreamYard's not working. Our only sub for the wing is Ashley Young.
Yeah, and he's right. When Lindstrom come off and the Corey come off, now I knew Alcaraz was coming on, but instead of Erik Boonham, I was sure that it was going to be Ashley Young. And at that point, I'd have sat down, put my feet up, and accepted that we probably weren't going to go for it and win the game, because he's right. Our only wing option is Ashley Young, and he's been a makeshift right back. He's only 40 years old, so it just shows that how threadbare we are. Like I said, Harrison should be probably our substitute option to come on. McNeil should be in that team as well in GI, but we don't have him, so we don't have the players to change it. And then above that as well, Tazul, half the team won't be here next season as well, so no one's going to be getting majorly upset. There's no reason for everyone to be fuming, and I don't think they are. But we can say it's we can say it was a pretty poor game. Can't say it was a pretty poor performance, and it's one we'll just forget about by Monday.
And I think this, as content creators, that's the challenge on a match like this. Yeah, life isn't bad for us. It could be better. We know there's a plan in place. We don't know what it's going to look like next season, but we also know there's a new structuring. We trust Moyes. We're going to a new stadium. At this point, unless there's some drastic points deduction that it basically isn't going to happen, we're good for next season at the rate things are going. We didn't lose today, which was key, right? We didn't lose to Wolves. So now all of a sudden we still have kept, was it a 10-point gap on them? And they have a gap against the Ipswiches and the Leicesters, who are not getting results. I think Ipswich lost 1-0 today to Crystal Palace. So if they're not getting these kind of results and we're getting a point and our next opposition is Wolves, we're safe for next season. So that part, it's a low bar, but we've got it. So now the panic has gone away, so we can just kind of zen into mediocrity. But we want more than mediocrity, but we're not going to get wound up about it either. So talking about that week in, week out is a very different emotion to pull for us.
Yeah, and like you said, it is one of the hardest parts, because at this moment now, let's be honest, we're pretty much, maybe not us as fans, but in general, we're not checking out for the season, but it's all about looking forward to next season. The club's doing the exact same. Yeah. Obviously, we know what happened yesterday with the massive shake-up in terms of the business side or behind the scenes boardroom side of things for the club and the recruitment side of things. And I think that's what Moyes is probably going to be looking at, is just getting through these games, essentially keeping momentum. And I think that's what he'll be happy with. Instead of getting the wins, and we would have liked to be pushing up and overtaking the West Hams, the United, the Spurs, and attacking that next part of the table, which I still think we should do, but I'm ambitious for this club. But Moyes will be doing the same. He'll just be like, let's just not lose. Let's just keep the momentum going. There's no point trying to fight for these higher spaces and damaging ourselves. I disagree with that, but when I say it, I think that's exactly what we're doing. And we here to follow Everton, we just need to try and keep everyone else engaged. So maybe we could do with a bit of heads falling off.
There's some conversation about the UAE and the training. I know last season, at around the same time, you know what we talked about? The players don't deserve to go to Portugal in the sun. They need to suffer in the cold like us. UAE is a bit of it's a further distance to travel. So maybe there's jet lag or not, and match fitness is sometimes hard to snap back into. But look, with the last few matches, we've also played teams that are structured to be very difficult to break down in the midfield. And when Everton have gotten results through Moyes, it has been building up through the midfield to give an opportunity to Beto with a good through ball, or a team that plays a really high line. But that's become noticed, I imagine, by most sides. So we need to figure out the next phase of Everton's ability to score under Moyes, if that tactic has been caught. So then you ask, and who's our next fixture, Corey? Who do we have next?
I believe, is it West Ham we've got next, is it?
Yeah, so I would imagine it's going to be a similar kind of glut of midfield to take on the likes of Souček and, is it Edson Alvarez and some of those guys in the midfield? Because, again, West Ham, when we played them, that was a very dull match. I remember, I think it was you, Chad, and then I was watching the game. It was a 0-0, and I was in an airport at like 2 a.m. or some silly thing, and we were talking about the content. There was like nothing to talk about. It was like the worst match of football. I have a bad feeling it'll be very similar to that next week, unless Moyes comes up with a way to break down West Ham. But you know what? He knows that squad better than a lot of players, so he'll be able to know their weaknesses or strengths. But what can he do with it?
Yeah, no, you're correct. It gives us a little bit of insight as well, doesn't it? And I think it's going to be a difficult game next week against West Ham. I think they're going to they're going to make it difficult. I think West Ham are going to, although I know the Graham Potter likes the team to get on the ball a little bit more, I think he'll know that Everton are probably going to want to press a bit higher. And I think they will sit back and try and catch us on the counter-attack. I don't know why. I just feel like that is likely to be the case. I just think he's going to try and outsmart Moyes.
Well, that is the goal of a manager, is to outsmart the other one.
No, I know, yeah. But what I mean is, obviously, Potter typically, he wants his team to be in possession of the ball, you know what I mean? But I think he'll probably try and counteract that by playing more of a deep line, letting us attack them, and maybe catch us on the break, because the likes of Bowen, Kudus, they have got pace, and probably just try and pack that midfield as much as they can do.
Yeah, Bowen and Kudus are going to be a threat for us there, but that might be going a little bit too far into the next match. But I will bring up, Corey, because you're just saying, well, they're going to want to give us possession and go after us on the break. Isn't that what you thought Wolves would do today? And I remember hearing in the commentary, well, both teams don't want the ball. Who's gonna get that poison chalice? The answer was Wolverhampton. They had 66% possession today. But even when you look at chances created, and I love it or hate it, on the XG side of things, Everton created better chances. 1.3 to Everton, 0.6 to Wolves. Big chances to Everton, 1 to Wolves. Total shots been equal, 11 to 12. Corners, 5 to 5. It was smack bang in the middle, other than we let them have the ball, and we just sat back because they wanted the result more than we did. We were happy with the 1-1. I don't know what's gonna happen with Graham Potter, but I imagine he would rather have possession than Moyes would away from home again. I feel like it'll be same as, but trying to improve the delivery, and we didn't convert our chances. And maybe that's what Moyes will say. We didn't play great, absolutely, but if Beto scored that one chance, we'd be having a different conversation. But clearly, we need to be more clinical and build the ball through the middle better. That's what I'd feel is a pretty justified response from him.
I think if we need to play Alcaraz next week, I think if we do that, where we're missing, because like I said, we like to play counter-attack on football. We like to play a decent press. We like the energy midfield. And that's what Moyes wants from Decore. I think we need to take them chances. And when we get chances against teams that are maybe gonna sit back, or at least not teams that we should be taking more chances against, like today, we just did not get nowhere near as many chances we should have, especially on the counter-attacks. I think someone like Alcaraz is going to create them opportunities. He's going to create a lot more than what Decore does. He's going to do a lot more in the transition. I think he maybe just needs to be a bit braver, David Moyes, and play Alcaraz next week. I think a lot of the fans would appreciate that, the home fans as well. So it could even be a case of Alcaraz at home, Decore away kind of thing, where you want to sit back a little bit more.
And it is an Everton home match, so maybe that drives us to get the possession, the poison chalice of possession that a lot of the mid-table squads have, because I think Wolves, West Ham, and us are in a very similar position in that respect. Different managing styles and how to do it, but we're not comfortable. We're much better, and we nearly that was our best scoring chance other than the goal itself, was through a counter attack where their rest defense wasn't set up correctly, and we had pace. The challenge we're going to have, though, is does Charlie Alcaraz, if we get a press that you're asking for, Abdoulaye Doucouré is our best presser, no doubt, and he makes a huge impact on that component of our game that I don't know if Charlie Alcaraz can replicate. Now, if it's later on in the match and there's a more open field, Charlie is going to be taking that on and has proven it on matches like today on that left side. And I really like how he sets up with Mykolenko. But do you start from minute dot, and then you have Alcaraz either in the Doucouré role, or do you play him like we did in the second half? Play it a little bit tucked in to give Mykolenko the width, and then just Harrison or Lindstrom get subbed.
So
that's another view of it.
So for me, obviously, when you look at the Brentford game last week or 2 weeks ago, we still pressed, but instead of it pressing from Doucouré on the front, Beto pressed a bit more on the front, and it was Alcaraz who was the second presser. So what was happening was we were still doing maybe not as intense a press as you will do with Doucouré, but we're still getting a good press on Brentford. The ball was bouncing back to Alcaraz, who was in the deeper position, and he had the technical ability and the composure to drive forward or to play a ball forward for Beto. So personally, for me, I think I've said this from the beginning. I think Alcaraz can still provide a good amount, maybe not the same amount of energy and press, but he can certainly provide a good amount of energy, and he can provide a press from the front. I believe he's got that in him. I think he's maybe a little bit lightweight, but again, it's risk and reward, and I would like us to take that risk, because if we create a couple more chances for Beto, he probably scores them. He learns that he can't keep in that same position. I think, again, I'm referencing quite a bit tonight, mate. Azul, again, Ollie Watkins missed the 1-on-1 today against Brentford. He's one of the top strikers in the country. Sometimes Haaland does it. Sometimes a striker just needs a second goal. It's a second bite of the cherry. And I think if you're constantly missing your 1-on-1s, there's an issue. But to miss one and then blame it on that one, no, you've got to make a couple more chances for them. Yeah. Sometimes you need a warm up.
So I want to go back to that previous chat, but since we talked about Beto, I will also talk about at least he's going far post, which means the ball is in play when he makes that strike. But DCL seemed to be the opposite. He would always pull it to the near post, and it was predictable in the opposite way. So what both of these players need to do, assuming DCL's fit at some point again before the end of his contract, to open up and occasionally mix it up and change, pull against your body and do an awkward little pivot to the near post and confuse the keeper. Because yes, Beto, that works until it's obvious that he only has one move. And that's the challenge that we're having with Beto. And we've had a lot with these strikers. They're not very good on one-on-ones. And those people, a lot of these type of strikers are not good at taking penalties either. Ollie Watkins is like that as well. But Calvert-Lewin scores his penalties. So take of that what you will. I want to go back, though. I brought up you saying Charlie Alcaraz is good in the press. We know Doucouré is. Therefore, would you be open to saying we actually have the setup we had in the second half, but instead of having Abdoulaye Doucouré off in exchange for Charlie Alcaraz, now what you say is, all right, either Harrison or Lindstrom, one of you guys is benched. We'll have maybe say Jesper up high and wide on the right, Charlie on the left, Mykolenko up in an advanced position, and then then Doucouré's in the center there, pressing, and then Garner Gay can either play high and cover or James Garner, and they alternate. And you then hold them in at a higher press than what I think we could do with Harrison and Lindstrom, because I would like to see Charlie and Doucouré play together for a bit, but I don't know if that messes up the shape too much.
So just to clarify, it'd be like a 4-2-3-1, like a narrow one. So Gay, Garner is your central midfielders, and then maybe Doucouré, Charlie on the left, Lindstrom on the right, and then that be your midfield five essentially. Alcaraz and Lindstrom not being as wide as possible. Is that what you mean?
I believe, yeah. I'm trying to making sure I got my numbers right and I haven't added someone extra. So let's say in the second half, if Harrison wasn't on the pitch, but you had you started instead with the likes of Lindstrom on the right, because he's got a little bit more pace and ability to kind of adapt and shut down. If he gets out muscled, okay, but in terms of pace and being able to block the passing lanes, he's got it. So if you have him on the right, Charlie on the left, then you're really saying, how about the midfield at that point? So you've got basically the same setup of Charlie taking Harrison's spot, and then you've got Lindstrom on the right, and the exact same starting formation. Then then you press in high and then advanced on the left, and Mikolenko can then be in a wing back position when we've got possession. And just
the same as what we've had today, but Alcaraz on the left instead of Harrison. I certainly think it could work.
Lindstrom
I certainly think it could work. Probably be a bit more intensity than what we would have got with Harrison. The issue I think you get is maybe lacking a bit with, because Alcaraz likes to cut in quite a bit. You wouldn't have an out and out wide play there, because even in Jai cutting in on his right foot, he still played out wide a little bit. So what that would most likely mean is that Mikolenko pushes forward a little bit more, which I wouldn't be against, by the way. He's got forward more and more under David Moyes so far, and he, contrary to what we all thought beforehand, he can whip at least some sort of ball into a dangerous area. We've seen it in the first half today as well, didn't we? So I wouldn't be against.
He had an expected assist, it just wasn't converted. A really good cutback in advanced positions. That's what I'm saying. I want to see him continuing his good form on the left, bombing on and not being blocked out by Harrison the way he was in the first half. Yeah,
no, I mean, I agree. I can certainly see it happening. It's certainly something I would look into doing. And I guess it kind of solves that conundrum, because Moyes would really want the Corey in the team. Well, if you really want the Corey in the team, take Harrison out. So yeah, no, I agree. I do think though, as like a definite, Charlie Alcaraz needs to be in that starting lineup next week, because we're lacking creativity again, and we need someone to slip balls through. We need some creativity in that team, because we were lacking it for a big portion of that match today.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation about.
You've gone muted again.
Am I back now?
You're back, lad. You're back.
It's just randomly saying you've lost internet connection, but my Australian internet's been really shambolic this morning. Not sure why. Saturday night, lost network. Anyway, there's a lot of conversation about strikers gaining confidence, and Beto for a little bit has it. And I don't think he may not be scoring these chances, but he is doing the right general maneuvers. He's positioning his body. He's hitting the ball on target. He's playing. Doesn't look truly out of confidence to me. If it was out of confidence, he would not be striking it with a bit of any pace. It was still struck. It wasn't excellently knocked. You should have had a bit of height on it, and basically opened up and chipped into the top corner. Okay, but that's not. But Beto's been scoring. It just has to alternate his looks on goal.
Yeah, I get what Peter's saying, because when you see him strike, he looks a lot more confident, and he looks a lot more of a natural striker of the ball than Calvert-Lewin does. But I know what he means. I think his technical ability overall maybe leaves a little bit to be desired. I actually think when he's knocking the ball forward and he's running, he's not too bad. But it's that first touch and it's trying to turn on the ball that's probably his issue. That kind of lets him down a little bit. But this comes with coaching, and like I said, we don't know if the fella's been coached under the previous regime at all, because it didn't seem like in the previous regime like to pay any attention to the attacking side of things. So
the tyrannical regime, no practice, just score.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to mention it by name, because we should be moving on from that now. But we don't know if that is the case. So look, I get where you're coming from, Peter. It does look like that at times, but look, the fella's been nominated for Player of the Month. He's been banging goals in all throughout February. So I think give him the benefit of the doubt for now. He's had 2 poor games, but he should have done better. Today he's only had 1 strike. Like I said, sometimes you need that warm up. And as long as it wasn't just a flash in the pan with a couple of games, and he starts scoring again, even if it's not at the same rate, but it's 1 and 2 or something like that, that's fine. And it's potentially something to work on in the summer. There'll be big changes, but if Beto is here come start next season, which look, I like him. I'd still like to see us stick with him so far. Hopefully he gets some proper attacking technique coaching, because in Italy you get a bit more time on the ball. It's a little bit slower. There's a bit more space. You don't get that here, and that's probably where he's struggling. And that only comes with playing time. And again, up until last month, he was only playing bit part games. So hopefully more time in the team. He warms to it. Maybe some proper striker coaching as well. Get someone who can show him how to trap a ball properly. Just not Romelu Lukaku to teach him.
When you don't score your chances, we have these conversations. When you do score, all of a sudden, we're not challenging in the same way. But I don't want to just be tongue in cheek with that, because even still, when you score, you may not technically be excellent in the ball, but you score goals. So who cares when it's going well for you? Yes, I think we need to work on goal scoring techniques and composure. We've known that for a while. How that happens, we'll find out. Did you want to go over play ratings or anything else? Or are we happy to kind of close up shop? Because I know we've talked for 46 minutes now on a relatively uninteresting match.
Shall we just wrap up on the play ratings? We'll do play ratings, and then we'll be done by 50 minutes.
Sure. Do you want to go first?
Go on. So I'll tell you what. Should we do goalkeeper first, goalkeeper each, defense, and then midfield? So Jordan Pickford, sure. I'd probably give him a solid 7.5.
Yeah, there's not much he did wrong. But he didn't impact the game either. So I think he's 7. Just straight out pass.
2 decent saves. That one in the first half was very, very good. The one against Chan Larson, you'd expect him to make because Bramford sent him out wide. So yeah, no, I agree. 7.5.
And a good foot save early on. The one on his near post. That was good.
Yeah.
7.5 actually for that.
In terms of defense, O'Brien gets a 6. Tarkowski, I'd say, gets a 7. Bramthwaite is 6.5. Mykolenko a 5.
Yeah, it was tricky. I think I agree so far. The one that's tricky for me was Mykolenko, because I think he was not set up for success today. Like in that until 70th minute, and then he was holding on to the lead. It seemed like he was just not able to get involved because he was not interacting with Harrison. Yes, kind of that's on him too, but it seemed like positionally he wasn't given an opportunity to impact the game the way he wanted. So yeah, it's kind of it's harsh, but I think probably a 5.5 to 6 for him as well.
Yeah, him and O'Brien the same. I think Tarky was the best of the defenders, and Bramthwaite. I thought he had a really good start to the game, but like you said, the way the optics and how they scored the goal doesn't look the best for him. Idrissa Gana Gueye, for me, I think 7.5. He lost the ball once or twice, but there were times where I think there's one point in the second half towards the end when he couldn't get out, and I think he made about 5 tackles in a row. He'd win the ball, someone would give it away, and then he'd win it back literally in the space of a minute. He must have made about 4 or 5 tackles. The man just is a machine when it comes to winning the ball back. He's a menace.
Yeah, I think he's probably our man of the match today. And it's not, it's the little things that say, you know what, he pissed off the entire midfield, shut down the game for them when we felt outnumbered and boxed in through the middle. The fans didn't like it. He didn't even give himself a yellow card and just slowed down the midfield. To me, that's underrated and hard to quantify, but we all saw it. And to me, probably a 7.5.
Yeah, I could even stretch to an 8, to be honest, because I thought he'd done that well. I think if the rest of the team played really well and we won, we'd have probably been lauding him as like an 8 and 8.5.
I mean, he had a poor strike, so we'll drop it down from 8 to 7.5.
James Garner, I think I was quite disappointed with Garner today. There were times like early on in the first half, the tackle that he made and he got brought back for a foul, ridiculous. Obviously, he'd done well in terms of the press and winning the ball for our first goal. But there were times, especially defensively, where I thought he was invisible in that midfield, and I think partly down to Wolves overloading, winning that midfield battle. But I think he was quite poor today at times. James Garner, I think he went missing quite a bit, and he could have been brought off.
Yeah, Tazul brought up something really important to think about as well. So for Idrissa Gana Gueye and Abdoulaye Doucouré, they were likely fasting as part of Ramadan. So what I will say, it's tough at this for this entire period, the sacrifice that they're making. But remember, this was at least a night game, so they would have been able to recover and hydrate by playing in the evening. So a little bit of that impact, I think, may be diminished. Because usually it's for daytime, But the general wear and tear of that on the body is notable. And that was a challenge we had last year as well with Onana involved as well. So the entire midfield had that.
Yeah,
so we expected more though, but
especially for players that play like their game is energy. The Corey, his main thing is his pressing, his energy, and everything he gives to the team. So it's no surprise that he come off as early as he did. Number one, tactically, but number two, because he would have been fasting throughout the day, and it would have had an effect on his energy levels. Idrissa Gana Gueye, though, is just a different. Yeah. He's just a different level, isn't he?
Yeah. Because he's fast and furious.
Yeah, he's fast and furious. Yeah, it's fantastic. That mate, it's brilliant. Honestly, yeah, I've run out of superlatives for him, especially when you consider the fact that he's fasting. Yeah. Moving on to obviously more attacking side of things, the Corey I thought was very, very poor today. I would have given him a 5. Yeah, smashed it. Jack Harrison gets a 6.5
because he scored.
He got the goal, but I think at times he was anonymous today as well. Lindstrom, 6.5. His assist was really good. Some good moments, but again, nothing massively standout.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6 because he didn't stand out except for that assist. So he gets boosted from a 5 or 5.5 to a 6. Yeah, solely for that.
And then better up front, the man gets a 5 as well.
Yeah, not terrible, but he didn't do enough to impact the game. Not always his fault, but good strikers will find a way to get engaged. They'll drop deeper, get their foot on the ball, and try something different. He didn't do that.
Yeah.
So now we've got some substitutes. We've got to look at Tim-Erik Boonum, Charlie Alcaraz. Am I missing one, or are they those?
Ashley Young came on late on, but too late to make a call on.
Yeah, let's not count him then. Yeah. So let's say Tim-Erik Boonum. I want to hear your thoughts there.
I'm going to be generous and give him a 6. I thought he struggled at times when he come on. He still only had some good feet, but I think he struggled. I think he struggled to get into the pace of the game at times because Wolves were in the ascendancy at that point. And they were winning that midfield battle again. So I'd say I'll be generous and give him a 6, but a 5.5, to be honest, is probably round about the spot.
Yeah, I'd say 5. He just didn't get into the game. I really want to see him and James Garner just powerhouse that midfield, but he seems either it's match fitness or he doesn't have that freedom he played with prior to his injury yet. He just seems a little off it, cautious, and not guns a-blazing, which you need from him to make the impact he did. And he was almost caught out and made a really bad tackle that would have red carded him, and he caught himself last minute. Then we have Charlie Alcaraz, who in some ways I think could have been considered borderline our man of the match outside of Idrissa Gana Gueye today.
Yeah. See, I don't want to give him more. I don't want to give him as much as Idrissa Gana Gueye. We'll give a 7.5. I'd give a 7.5 too. And I don't want to give him as low as Tarkowski. Got a 7 because I think Tarkowski had a good game, but it's going to be somewhere between a 7 and a 7.5 for him. Let's go with 7, high 7.
Yeah.
Because, if like you said, his energy, he did change the game. Go on, I'll tell you what, we'll go Tarkowski 7, Gueye an 8, and Alcaraz a 7.5.
And pick for the 7.
Pick for the 7, yeah, give him a 7 as well.
Those were the 4 that stood out to us. Yeah, and I think that's it. Good conversation in the chat as always. For those watching back, feel free to... I think Ryan wants us to change the title, so it may get retitled. But all the same, for those watching back, feel free to add your comments in the chat. We've had a really good dialogue for those watching live. And I'm not sure who's going to be covering the match for West Ham. I'm going to be back away on site, so not sure I'll be available. But I'm sure we'll have a preview, a pre-match, and post-match coverage for that here shortly. And until next time, up the Toffees.
Up the Toffees, yes.